Today's guest is hard money lender Gary Brown. In the following conversation, we talk about interest rates, the state of the current real estate market, and what you should do to set yourself up for success in unsure economic times. There's still deals out there. People are still flipping houses. People are still buying rentals. It all comes down to deal structure and being able to get your deal funded. Gary is an expert in not only writing loans and being able to get creative where others might not be able to, but he's also an expert in acquisitions and sales. So if there's anybody that can help you get a deal across the finish line, it's him. The following conversation has a lot of gold nuggets. So I'm thankful to have Gary as a guest today, and I hope you enjoy the conversation. So Gary, let's talk about interest rates. They're up higher than they've been in many, many years, right? People still have 3s and 4s in their mind from not that long ago. What do you think about how they're impacting the real estate market right now, and kind of what do you see in the future?
As an investor, you really shouldn't care so much about the interest rate. I know that's kind of like a lender thing to say, just buy the loan, you'll be okay. But seriously, the way that a DSCR mortgage is underwritten, you're going to have to cash flow. And so if you're looking at a long-term buy and hold, there's two ways to look at it. Either you're protecting your cash and buying for appreciation so that when you go to sell later or refinance down the line, it's the cash that you're pulling out of it. Or you're looking like every other investor and you're looking at cash flow. So it's about level can you get the property to as far as condition, and then the cash flow that you're getting from the rent that you're bringing in versus the fixed expenses and debt. So interest rates are going to rise, interest rates are going to fall. Hopefully you catch a refinance when they dip. But if you're buying a long-term rental or you're refinancing into a long-term mortgage right now at a 7+ interest rate or an 8+ interest rate, if you're cash flowing, it's gravy, baby.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep. No, it's a great point, great perspective, because I mean, who knows what rates will do. So you just have to look at where we're at today and how can you make it work today.
Exactly.
And I know that we've talked about this in the past many times, long before you were even in the lending space, right? But like, your financing should never make or break a deal.
Exactly. Funding should not make or break the deal. What's going to make or break your deal? Buy price and not planning for contingencies. Would you agree with that?
As far as what? You mean like unexpected stuff in a rehab?
If you don't understand your repair numbers, then you're not going to have a profitable deal. You might. I mean, puncher's chance, right?
True.
But if you're buying right and you understand your numbers, most likely you're going to have a profitable deal.
Totally agree. Yeah. Totally agree. What do you think? So going past the surface level with rates and everything, because everybody wants to just talk about, what the going rate is right now and everything, and how's
What's
that going to
rate?
Yeah, exactly. What are you going to charge me, Gary Brown? How many points? How many? I
love
whatever.
that. I love that conversation because it allows me to build.
It's a subjective question, though, but it's an icebreaker nonetheless. It's somebody that is showing interest in your product.
Absolutely. If you're asking me what's my price, that means it's the gateway to the conversation.
Absolutely. It's no different than in wholesale and talking to potentially motivated sellers and them starting the conversation with what's your offer, right? Yeah. It's the same thing. It's still a way to start. And surface level, it seems really annoying because it's like, oh my God, I can't just give you an offer. I need to know the condition. I need to know, are there tenants in there? Are they squatters? Did they trash the place? Is it nice? There's so much more.
Yeah.
But let's talk about it.
So when you're with a seller and they say, what's your offer? I mean, you don't know yet, right? Mm-hmm. When someone's asking me, what's your rate? I have an idea. Just like you might have an idea as to what kind of offer you're going to make for buying the house. I have an idea as to what the rate. I have an idea as to based off of where the deal is and this person's experience level relatively. I know what program that they would match well with or can get funded. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, sitting in the broker's seat, much like the wholesaler seat, we're creating value for two other parties.
Sure.
So we have to make sure that we're doing the right deal at the right time and providing value on both ends.
Yep.
I got two clients, right? I got my lenders that I work with consistently, and then I have my investors that I work with consistently. And it's hard to kind of balance, who do I want to favor with the most? Because if I burn the bridge with my lenders, or as in the wholesaling analogy, if I burn my bridge with my buyers, like, what do I do then? Because even if I do get a good deal, then I can't get any
Nobody
attention.
to sell it to. Yep. It's a delicate balance, and it is a great analogy because I feel like it's relative in any industry, right? It's not only that you have your single consumer who you're trying to please. It's like if you're in retail, you have your consumer who's buying your products, but you also have your vendors that you're buying from. There's relationships on both sides, and you do have to please everybody to a certain level of satisfaction to remain a business.
Exactly.
So
when we're talking about what's your price, what's your rate, what's your offer, I used to get so like amped up about that until I just put it in my mind, the same thing that you said, which was they're just opening the doorway to a sales conversation and to see if they want to entertain it.
exactly right.
What gets really fucked up is trying to keep that same level of cool in a digital format.
Ooh.
When
Okay.
you get the text,
Yeah. Because
like,
it's not even
what's
like
your offer?
personal yet.
Yeah, I don't know you. You don't know my value proposition.
So how do you handle that right now?
I just punt to a call.
Okay.
I mean, I got to punt to a call because at the end of the day, rates and terms are free. I can tell you rates and terms for free. That is fine. I could send you a PDF. I can send you an email. You know my rates and pricing. That's easy. But the reason why you're going to work with a guy like me is because my caseload is XYZ, which means that I can devote so much more attention to your file individually so that you can have a successful transaction. That's why you're working with me. On top of the fact that, yeah, I do have access to pretty high leverage programs. I do see myself as a person that can allow you to burr your first or next property within 90 days consistently. So if you do set up your business to escape the 9-to-5, or you want to go from being a contractor to an investor, then yeah, here's the roadmap. Here's are the programs that we're going to put in place for you so that you have your lines of credit set up, you have your hard money fix and flip funding, and then you can easily refinance into a long-term loan by protecting your credit as best as possible. So that if you wanted to go and get your primary home, I mean, that's the spoils of being an investor, right?
Right.
You're making money, you want to go and get nice things.
Yep.
You still have to have good credit.
Very good point. Very good point. What do you see as some of like the biggest obstacles that buyers that are coming to you today looking for a loan for a flip or a rental? What are some of the biggest problems that people are facing that you're having to overcome with them or for them?
So the biggest challenge that I'm seeing more buyers that are looking for fix and flip funding is they need to drive down the costs. And I feel like that's just like a part of being an investor, is trying to drive down costs, when same thing as what we were talking about before. It's like your funding should not be make or break your deal, but because you're buying at a certain level of a price point, whether you're buying on market on the MLS or a wholesaler is daisy chaining and adding 2 more fees on there, so you have to make up for that fact, or you're trying to rush to get into a deal so bad that you're willing to overpay a little bit, and now you have to see if you can squeeze costs on the financing side, where that's a little bit more rigid. If you had the cash, you would have closed on it.
Right.
If you need the money, then he who has the gold makes the rules.
That's the truth.
So there's flexibility in that, especially in the private money space. But that's what I see, is that people are trying to press so hard on nickel and dime type costs, when it's really what value did you bring to the person that's selling their property so that they're okay with a discount?
Right. Absolutely. And we can go super, super deep into that, right? Because that is one of the biggest, most important things that you can do to make sure your deal is going to work and make sense is buy it right. So you have loads and loads of experience in dealing with motivated seller space and everything as well. What would you say to somebody that has done a couple flips, or maybe they're doing their first one and they're really trying to find that first deal right now? Do you think it's worth somebody trying to do like direct to seller at all? Or do you think it serves them better to either buy something a little bit higher that's on the MLS or buy something from a wholesaler and reach out to a bunch of people and build relationships? What do you think? What's best for a buyer?
I think right now, working with wholesalers that are doing volume is your best play. And then working with those wholesalers on a name basis to try and say, these are the types of properties that I'm looking for in this area. This is the buy box. And I'm not doing unicorn stuff where you need to be bringing me things at 50, 55 cents on the dollar.
Right.
That's unicorn territory. A wholesaler's lucky to get it at that kind of level.
Very lucky.
Right?
Yep.
So if you're serious and you're working with wholesalers, they're going to be able to provide you access to more discounted deals than you would find on the MLS. That's not to say that there aren't deals on the MLS. You just have to be savvy enough either in your repair costs or able to have a savvy enough agent that can get your offer to the top of the pile and present it as best as possible. Because a cash offer from someone that's going to go and live in there, that can be a lot more desirable to...
Yeah, they're going to beat you.
Yeah.
They're going to beat you. They're going to pay more.
Yeah.
Yep. That's huge. And there's so much to unpack there. Like speaking with hundreds, thousands of buyers at this point over the last couple of years, it's always interesting when you get like a newbie that's aspiring to do their first deal, flip, rental, whatever it is, but there's some sort of rehab that needs to be done. And a lot of times they have this unreal expectation that they're buying value without actually having any skills or connections or resources. To your point, if everybody could buy a deal at 55 cents, 50 cents on the dollar, yeah, it doesn't matter if you don't have contractor connections and you're paying retail for work to get done. You're paying $20,000 for a bathroom that, an investor like you or me typically pays $5,000 for. It doesn't matter if you can buy deals for 50 cents on the dollar, but you can't. So you do have to be good at other things and bring value to the deal and be able to improve in some way, shape, or form. And a lot of times that does mean, figuring out how to reduce your costs on the rehab or have a construction team in-house or, have a vision that you're increasing the highest and best use of that property, right? So there's so many different ways that you can make money on it, but I think it's just an unrealistic expectation to say, I want to buy for 50 cents on the dollar. I have no contractors that I've ever worked with before. I've never even done a renovation. I'm going to go on Angie's List and find some contractors and flip this house and make money. It's like, no, you're not.
And then I'm going to go in a public Facebook group and I'm going to ask for lenders to give me 100% funding.
Right. Yep. Absolutely.
Right.
Look, everybody starts somewhere.
Yep.
Let's start with realistic expectations, and I think it's always, regardless of where you are in your journey, it's always good to be cognizant of that. Am I really good at this? Am I, like, if me and Gary are both looking at buying a house to fix and flip it, the end goal is the same. A nice family's going to buy that house and live there and everything. You should think in the back of your mind, like, am I going to do a better job rehabbing this than Gary? Am I bringing more value to the community, to the end buyer, to my lenders, my partners, whatever? It's like, because you should be. You should be bringing value to that deal and everybody that you touch in some way, shape, or form. And it's kind of a way of thinking backwards, reverse engineering everything. I don't think enough people do that.
All right. So if you're looking at it and you're saying, all right, am I going to buy on the MLS? Am I going to buy from a wholesaler, or am I going to do direct marketing to go find my deals? I think the third option, that last one, I'm going to go and do direct marketing. Do you have business experience? Do you know what metrics to look for? Do you have a system in place to be able to field the inbound inquiries for your marketing? Because that right there, that's the $10,000 wholesale fee. That's the.
What do you mean it's not easy?
Anyone that's tried to generate their own business and marketing wise understands that there's an ROI and there's also a cost. Right now, I'm running my entire business on word of mouth referrals and busting my ass in the DMs. That's 100% of my business. So if I were to go to look at spending money on ads, then I don't know if I'm qualified to do that, because I've built my business a certain way, and to go and add ads into it, all I'm going to see is dollar signs just going out the door and thinking all these leads are crap. And what am I spending all this money for? But if I do get 3 clients that do 3 deals with me each, all right, now I just paid for the marketing.
Yep.
That time's over. So was it worth those crap leads? Which is exactly what we were saying before. Do you have the system in place to go and do your own marketing, because you're paying for convenience when you're working with a wholesaler? And that's the big deal with using other people's knowledge and expertise and leveraging their time to be able to help you accomplish it. Sure, there's some astronomical wholesale fees that do pencil out. So you can feel a little butthurt when you're paying a $50,000 or $60,000 or $70,000.
Yeah, been there. Yeah, no, I felt it personally, right? I felt it. But if the deal works and makes sense.
But if the deal works and pencils.
Don't count somebody else's pocket.
Exactly.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. So you brought something up there. Well, a couple things. I want to touch on the relationship piece that you mentioned, but I also want to go in a little bit like into that direct marketing spend and everything, like with your business, because obviously having done massive amounts of direct response marketing over the years, I know a thing or two about it.
You do.
And I think the way that you've done everything thus far, setting up word of mouth referrals, that's fantastic, because I think ultimately if you can sustain a business on just word of mouth referrals, that means that you've gotten through like the preliminary setup phase of a business, right? Like you shouldn't be able to, I guess what I'm trying to say is if you only did direct response marketing and that got cut off tomorrow, right? You were just doing Google pay-per-click or whatever and it stopped tomorrow and your business dies, you're not diversified enough in the way that you run and operate your business. And the same, like you can't really say the same for word of mouth referrals, because they're never really going to stop. They're never really going to get cut off. But this is actually a recent discovery for me, which is so dumb to even think about, right? Because for years, like we've done deals from referrals and everything, but in my mind, like I was kind of reverse. We always do a massive amount of direct response marketing, but the referral stuff, it's like, okay, we do 10 deals a year that come in from referrals and everything, and that's wonderful. There's no lead costs. We're able to pay somebody a couple $1,000s every time that they do bring us a deal we close on. Wonderful. But in my mind, I was like, this is not controllable and it's not scalable.
Correct.
So we'll do it. It's great leveraging the relationships we have and being able to pay people out, but I can't grow it. And we were talking about this a couple months ago when you came and you had the big check, right?
That's right.
I was looking at our numbers last year and it was like mind blowing, dude. Like we did, I think, over $250,000 last year in referral deals. So that accounted for like whatever it was, 1/6 of our overall revenue. And I just looked at it and I'm like, man, there's got to be a way that we can like boost that we can grow it. And really all that we did, the biggest change was maybe once a month mentioning on social media, like, hey, if you bring a deal to us, like, we'll pay you. Here's a picture of this big check. Somebody sent us a deal and they got paid a couple $1,000. No real effort went into it or anything. And yeah, man, we have a massive amount of organic deals coming in the door now. And it frustrates the shit out of me with the amount of money that I've spent doing actual direct response marketing. However, I grew the business to what it is on direct response marketing. So I think there is a happy medium between how do I get as much as I can and squeeze every penny out of organic that I can while sprinkling in some of the direct response stuff.
I don't think I can be any more abundantly clear when I say this. I would not set up my business the way that I do it right now if I were telling someone else to do it.
Ooh, okay.
The reason being is that I don't think someone else has the bandwidth to be able to do that many messages and be committed to doing all that and friending thousands of people and having all of those conversations. I don't think that there's a reason for anyone to do it that way, the way that I've set it up. And I think I've mainly done that, one, being cheap and not wanting to do direct response ads, and starting out completely green in the industry without a whole big book that I could steal from a bigger shop.
Yep.
Right?
I understand. But so with that, like where my mind goes is somewhat slightly different than organic. That's not necessarily organic because you are doing the work. You are doing the outreach to people that aren't necessarily already in your network, right? You're talking about like cold DMs.
The
right?
whole, everything that I did from October of 22 through really late May, June of 23 here has been going into Facebook groups, friending all of the people that I would, in my mind, my metrics say they're a buyer of real estate and they're a serious buyer of real estate, or they may want to go and refinance a property. Mm-hmm. And value commenting on all the posts that are related to my expertise within those groups. We're talking tens of groups. We're hundreds of groups that I'm a participant in. Going into the people section, the member section, and then just friending. This is advice for anyone that's trying to build a buyer's list. This is exactly how you build a buyer's list.
Love it.
If you were to go and build it strictly through Facebook. This is how you do it. You go into the Facebook groups, you do value commenting, you share your expertise, whether you're an insurance forward guy or you're a tax forward guy or you're a finance forward guy or you're a contractor forward guy. Those conversations are happening in the groups very regularly, looking for recommendations. You have to value comment on those, and then you got to add people that like that post, add people that comment on those within a certain range. Obviously, you want to have some mutuals so it doesn't look totally out of it, but you're not going to get your mutuals up if you're not adding people.
Sure.
So then,
what's a value comment look like?
Someone says, "Hey, I'm a contractor. I'm looking to get into the flipping side. Looking for advice on where to start." Okay, I'm going to approach it from the fix and flip lending side, and I'm going to say, "Listen, man, you got the handy stuff down. You've been working for guys for a long time. What you need to focus on is buying a property at a discount and making sure that everything else is lined up by way of your real estate agent, your wholesaler, and your lender."
Got it.
And then underneath it, happy to chat with you in the DM. Then you go and send a DM.
So in the grand scheme of things, it sounds like exactly what it is. You are not necessarily trying to sell. You're doing whatever you can to try to solve their issue without being salesy and saying, well, the first thing that you should do is try to find a lender. And here I am. Let's talk about it.
Well, there's that too, because within the first message, you don't know if when they're gonna check their message. So you got to make sure that you put your value proposition first and foremost, so you know where the conversation's gonna go. So my first message is always, hey, Drew, we're in a few Facebook groups together. Want to let you know that I broker hard money loans for flips and DSCR rental loans for buy and hold properties. Nice to meet you. It's just that simple.
Yeah.
And if they reply back, now we got a conversation going. That reply could be, what's your rate?
Yep.
What's your terms? That kind of stuff. But we talked about it before. That's opening the doorway to the sales conversation.
Yep.
And so I'm okay with having it. It's really tough when it's through the digital medium because you don't know if someone's being a snark or if someone's being genuine.
Yep.
So you have to keep it as if they are being genuine until you can feel that they're being snarky. Hey, this is Facebook DMs. It's not for the weak. Block and move on.
Yep. Yep. So when you are trying to hop on a call with somebody and you engage with them initially through Facebook messages, are you trying to legit call them through Messenger, or are you saying like, hey, shoot me your phone number, let's hop on a call and trying to schedule something? Or
Right. So I said, don't set up your business the way that I've set it up, because I am so forward in Facebook that it's more or less a CRM, but your personal Facebook page is not a CRM and it's not going to help you. So you have to have an external CRM to be able to manage your contacts appropriately. And then you may need to enlist some help to be able to do that because you have to focus on doing deals too.
sure.
So I am driving them to either a Zoom call or a phone call on my cell phone, because I'm not going to lose. If Zuckerberg shuts down Facebook, I need your email and I need your phone number.
Yep.
So that way I can contact you if I get blocked or if I get throttled or whatever.
Yep.
So bringing them from that world into the other world is the key. A Zoom call or a phone call.
Have you ever tried anything with sending, I don't know, either on cold outreach or on a follow-up through any sort of messaging platform? Have you ever done anything with like the video messages?
That's interesting. I'd be worried about how much time it would take and if I wanted to customize the video message per individual.
Sure.
So what I do through video is the more or less taking care of that. I try and post it on my personal page, and it does get thousands of plays. So I see that my friends, it's at least coming up on their news feed, the different videos that I'm putting out. So
Okay.
that's more of like the ads,
Yep.
and then making sure that I'm following up systematically with people and being top of mind, hopefully when they have a deal.
Love it. Love it. And I think that's a beautiful segue into the relationships point that you brought up. So same thing with this year. It's one of the things that I've been preaching like crazy to the entire company, to the sales team. Like, I think now more than ever, relationships are more important than they've been in the last few years in my industry specifically, but it's probably relatable in anything else, because as the economy does what it's doing, inflation keeps up, every industry is going to get harder. Having relationships to fall back on is massive. It's massive. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
You got to come through for people, and you have to be a facilitator, an unselfish facilitator. So in the broker seat that I'm in, it's natural for me to be making referrals because that's what I capitalize on. You know, I'm introducing myself as the lender. I am a lender in my mind because I'm lining up the funds for you. But at the end of the day, someone could say, you're not a lender, you're just a broker. Well, someone could say, you're not an investor, you're just a wholesaler.
Yep.
You know, you're not this because you're a middleman. Well, the real estate ecosystem has a place for middlemen to make money. Mm-hmm. And the relationship piece is mainly through the middlemen connecting bigger players or finding solutions with specific niches that people are really, really good at. Yep. I mean, there's a whole community of people that are all about creative financing. Mm-hmm. What does that leave for a guy like me that I'm not facilitating creative financing? I'm doing fix and flips. Like, I'm looking for people that are looking to go in, do what they need to do, and get out.
Yep.
That's not, you can structure a flip creatively, but you're muddying the waters.
Shouldn't.
I mean, if you're doing it creatively and you're not taking the deed, I mean, you're flipping somebody else's house for them.
Yep. There's a lot of potential issues with that, right?
Right.
So yeah, like going back to your point about like as the middleman, there has always been a need for a relationship. But I think in the past couple of years specifically, like since COVID, market went crazy.
Yep.
Everybody's doing deals. There's so much stuff happening in the market and everything.
Yep.
Like it was easier. Again, this is probably applicable in a lot of other industries also, but it was easier to be transactional. As everything constricts and everything gets harder, I think solely focusing on being transactional and being like, oh, Gary's selling me this house and, you know, like I'm not really tight with him or anything like that. I don't really know his actual issues or what else he's got going on in his life. And same thing with my buyers. Like you should know everything so you can figure out how to creatively position a deal for a seller or a buyer or whoever based on their actual needs, not just, oh, this person's selling a house. Well, I'm a middleman and this person's buying a house and I'm a middleman. There's so much more value in building those relationships right now. You know?
Absolutely. So that's a part of the rate discussion, right? 'Cause
Sure. Absolutely.
we were seeing really nice real estate in the beginning of the pandemic and moving through the pandemic after they lifted the restrictions tangent for businesses to go out and perform. And then March of 22, we're getting rate hikes, and we've been getting monthly rate hikes essentially ever since.
Yep.
And so that's what I've seen in that time frame from March of 22 to current is the people that were fakers got out because they didn't want to grit and do it. They wanted to go get a salary job. That's so interesting. I've seen more people drop out in the same time frame doing the same thing that I'm doing than me going full force on it. And I'm seeing more success than I have had in this role than I have had in any other thing that I've tried to accomplish in my life.
That is super interesting.
So if you're working with somebody right now that is wishy-washy, give them a little bit of credit because they're still here.
Yep.
Swinging the hammer.
Yep.
They're trying to make shit happen.
Yep.
If they're a little frazzled, if they're a little spread out, if they're, a little bit harder to get a hold of, it's probably because they're busy trying to pull so many threads together.
It's a great point.
that they're just trying to navigate these waters. Now, we're a little bit more comfortable now that it's more like, all right, well, rates are going to go up next month anyway. So let's just get the deal now and get it funded and let's go.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, we're all here to go do deals. And, if you're personally looking at being one of the facilitators, the middleman, a wholesaler, a real estate agent, or something that's making the deals happen, you just got to double down on what you're good at and keep moving forward with that. And if you're working with one of those people and a little bit hard to get a hold of, give them a little bit of credit, a little bit of grace.
No, I like that. Let me ask your perspective on kind of what you just mentioned. Like, I know that you and I know a lot of the same people, and there's been, in the last year, there's been some like really big players that have walked out, like you said, and kind of went to another thing. What does that make you think or feel?
I mean, there's a vacuum, and now someone's got to go fill the void, right? So if you're looking at a big wholesaler in the area that's closing up shop and they're no longer doing deals, and well, now there's deals to be done by other wholesalers in the area.
Are there?
There's always going to be people with problems, right, Drew?
Absolutely right.
Divorce, death, medical, distance, disrepair. People are going to have those problems.
Yep.
So the problems aren't going to go away. It's how profitable are those problems to solve?
Yep.
And how often can you repeat the process? How much are you spending on marketing? How much are your systems and processes fine-tuned?
Yep.
and understanding the role that you are in the industry. If you are doing your first 12 fix and flips, I mean, it's nice to be profitable on all 12, right? But you got to take some lumps, and sometimes you profit in the learning lesson.
Ain't that the truth, man?
Right?
Ain't that the truth? Yeah, I think like my perspective is seeing a lot of people like exit or just shift what they're doing in the last year or two. Like, there's no question. And I fought this mindset and mentality for a while. Like this time last year, we were having record breaking months. And it was beginning of last year when in groups like CG that I'm in and other real estate groups with guys around the country that are running big operations. Like we're talking a lot of these dudes are running $5 million a year, $10 million a year, wholesale operations. They're flipping 50, 100 houses a year. And beginning of last year, I started hearing a lot of people saying, yo, shit's getting tough, you know? Deals are sitting longer. When we rehab them and we're selling, it's getting harder to find good tenants for properties. Our wholesale deals, it's harder to get a decent enough deal from a seller that we're able to make a spread selling, and shit's just getting tough. And I heard that, and I could understand it to a degree with the economy and what's going on, but I wasn't seeing that in the business. I wasn't seeing it translate, and it was a weird and really uneasy feeling, honestly. It's like, because I couldn't pinpoint, like, why is what we're doing working, right? Like, when I can see almost everybody that I know has been negatively impacted by what's going on economically. And we were over here a year ago, like we were recruiting like crazy, man. My biggest issue a year ago was I'm trying to bring in 5 more people, and, you know, where am I finding them and where are we moving to? Because we don't have the space. So, you know, we're buying an office, we're doing all this stuff. But still, man, like it was an uneasy feeling, like not really being able to pinpoint like what it was about what we were doing that was working when everybody else was having issues. And I do think that month after month, kind of having that in the back of my mind, I think it starts to poison you, you know, like you're letting all that get in, whether you think you're allowing it or not. You know, it goes hand in hand with the same philosophy of you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, right?
Yeah.
Same thing as mainstream media pumping whatever messages it is that they're pumping, whether you disbelieve it or not. It's like you hear something enough, in some way, it's starting to alter your perspective, right? So I do think that fucked me up last year, like hearing and seeing, oh, well, everybody else is having trouble. A lot of other people are walking out, walking away. And I think it kind of becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy at some point, you know?
Drew, you're a 90s kid, millennial. Have you noticed more bitching and moaning from guys our age that
Massive.
just, why is this happening? You know, we went through this and now we've had every single pandemic or whatever, 9/11, 2008. We've been crushed. We've had a lot of national setbacks in our economy.
Yeah,
so
our
to speak.
parents were able to buy a house for this.
Exactly.
And,
Boomers blame the boomers and all this stuff. I see this on my feed, and it is just absolute trash.
Yep.
It's absolute trash.
Yep.
Okay. Maybe that's on me. Maybe it's my middle class upbringing that from Westchester, Pennsylvania, that I'm relying on, that I didn't have the struggles there. All right. I wasn't born with a hammer in my hand, but I learned a skill, and connecting 2 people together that want to share some value, and I'm able to extract some value from that situation. That's a life skill.
It is.
Whether that's middlemaning as a wholesaler, being a real estate agent, you're a facilitator, you're networking.
Yep.
If you're a contractor and you're providing a skill, you can and a service, then you can see the tangible efforts of your work. And so the bitching and moaning and crying and complaining of people, of men especially, 30 to 35 years old, shut the fuck up.
100%.
We can. That's not meaning suppress it and don't be emotional. We've shared emotions. You know, we're emotional beings, right?
But you
dude,
get up and you keep going. Like
figure out a way to get the
Seriously.
job done
Yep.
and just go do it.
That's it.
You know?
That's it. Yeah, we could probably wrap on that for another 20 minutes and bash the crap out of people. But I think that is the main thing. It's, like it sounds harsh, and that's not the way that I am, you know me. But it's like, really, that is the message that a lot of people need to hear. Just shut the fuck up and go get stuff done. Like, you do have, like, we're so blessed as a country, right? Not even as, you know, a 30-year-old man and, you know, like whatever area. It's like, no, dude, like as a country, like we got stuff pretty easy. It's pretty easy. Like you can go out and like you can make money just by posting stuff on social media and everything. Like
You can.
there's so many ways you can get stuff done.
I'm running a whole
AI is, yep.
virtual assistants. How much is your dollar worth to someone out of the States? You've worked with virtual assistants, right?
Yep.
My buddy Louis Vanderhurst runs Outsource My Life. Give him all the credit in the world. I have my virtual assistant through him. Hardest working people that I've worked with most of the time are virtual assistants getting paid $7, $8, $9 an hour. And they're happy as a clam and they're ready to go and do it. It's the middle of the night. Let me go and cry for a second while I go microwave this popcorn.
Yep.
Right?
Exactly right. Exactly. Where are your VAs based out of?
Our one VA is in the Philippines.
Okay.
Yeah, Camille's great.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. And how long have you had a VA doing
I
stuff
had
for
her
you?
since January, so I credit a lot of growth to her efforts too. She's helping me organize the direct messages, and she'll send out a few stock, but I'm always the reply.
Okay.
So if anyone out there, if you think that I'm not a real person replying to your DMs, it is 100% in fact me.
Most of the time. Let's go back real quick to that point about like just people overall bitching and everything on social media. What do you think, like with the algorithm specifically? Like I've thought about this before. Like there's plenty of topics that drive me absolutely crazy, and I'm like, I don't want to see that, but I see a lot of it.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, how is the algorithm perceiving what my thoughts are by the way that I swipe off it or whatever? It's like, why do I keep seeing that? Because at its core, social media is supposed to basically be an echo chamber, and what you like, you see, what you don't like, you don't see. So I've thought before, it's like,
It's not set up like that anymore, Drew.
you don't think?
No. They want to drill in certain emotions that elicit responses. So
Ooh, we're going to get deep here. We're going to get deep.
tinfoil hat.
Let's go. Let's go.
If you want to disrupt a society and create chaos, you give people exactly what their internal voices are screaming at each other, and you just force feed it to them. And I can't be the only guy trying to solve national politics in the shower. Right?
You haven't solved it yet?
I mean, I'm getting really close.
Getting close.
I'm not the only guy.
We're going to crack it today.
Today, I'm not the only guy that's trying to restructure the division alignment in the NFL, just rolling as a conversation in my head, right? So if something were to come up on my feed that I'm particularly interested in or have a passionate opinion about, and I watch it for any number of seconds, the algorithm knows. Or at least that's me, what I think, is that they're trying to force feed so much information that we're so niched down in our interests that we can't talk to anyone without getting into an argument because they're already niched down so far down their hole that they see opposition or a difference of opinion or even something that may look like someone has a different opinion and they're automatically going to write them off.
Yep.
Like, what does there's this mom that drops off her kid at daycare when I drop my kid off at daycare, and let's say she's got blue hair.
Does she have blue hair? Or are we
Let's
just
say
saying this hypothetically?
I don't want to out anybody, and I need to show my face at this daycare.
But it's okay.
Right.
It's okay. We're
Okay.
doing it.
All right. She's got blue hair.
She's got blue hair. All right. I like it.
I don't know her first name or her kid's name, but I've already made I know exactly what she's about because she's got blue hair. Do I, though? I have no idea. I could be totally accurate or I could be totally inaccurate.
You could.
But the way that the algorithm is set up, I have a good idea as to what kind of content she's consuming.
Yeah. No, you're right. And look, it goes hand in hand to what we were talking about right before we started this, right? Like I had some biases in my mind about the sales position in the wholesale company, right? And I've hired and fired 60, 70, 80 people in that role. And I have preconceived notions about the personality profile of who will succeed in that role. Mm-hmm. And I was just recently proven wrong. It's like I've been doing this for 5 years, and this bias that I have that is probably 90% correct. Like the bias is probably mostly correct, but it's not 100%, right? So I don't know. I think there's a lot to be said about our judging a book by its cover, right? Like that is at its core, that's our survival instinct.
It is.
Like we can only process so much information. And if you went for a walk in the days of cavemen and you saw your best friend get eaten by a fucking lion, the next time
lions,
you see a
bro.
lion, like, you know.
Yeah. I'm going to kill that motherfucking lion, man.
You're going to kill the lion? Nah, man, I'm running another way. I'm out.
Oh.
You're going to try to kill the lion?
I mean,
I don't want to mess with the lion.
I'm definitely anti-lion.
Fair. You got to be anti-lion at this point
yeah.
in the days of cavemen.
Yeah.
But like it's actually a mental like efficiency, right? Is judging based on historical data.
Yes.
And sometimes that can lump you into a box of, I'm judging this person and I'm saying that they are probably a super extreme liberal and they are for gay rights and they're for all these things because that's in my mind. That is what I've seen in the past. And you're right.
Just so you know, Drew, that was
wrong.
you that said that. That wasn't me.
That's okay. I said that.
I don't need to be canceled today.
We're getting canceled. We're doing it. We're doing it. Let's go. But no, seriously, I don't know. On that topic too, I feel that people are so afraid of saying things that are even factual that aren't really a target or an attack.
Yeah.
Because of all this. And
definitely am afraid of this microphone for what I could say on here versus, what's
I get it. It is a real
kosher
risk.
to say.
I get it. That sucks though. That sucks.
It does. But this is going to live forever somewhere, isn't it?
It is. But I think communicating effectively and kind of getting the message across that it's like, dude, I'm not a hateful person. I don't have a hateful bone in my body. Like I don't dislike any individual group of people, but I can also look at facts and statistics and say some things. It doesn't mean that I dislike a certain political group or
the fact that you're leaning on facts. Okay.
Yeah, I know. Right. But seriously, like when you think about it, that going back to it's a like neurological efficiency of going off of historical data, what we've seen and what we've experienced, and maybe what we've seen and experienced isn't really the majority, right? It's like, what if every single time that you saw a lion, it went up to you and, rubbed its head up against you? In your mind, you're like, these things are not dangerous. They're cute. They're cuddly. I like them. Is that right?
That's so subjective.
There is nothing that's right though.
What reality
Everything's subjective.
What reality are you living in? Are you living in the reality where every few years there's a national crisis that's going to impede your generations of children or kids that you're going to spawn? Is every news cycle the most dramatic thing that's ever happened in the history of humanity?
That's all subjective though too, because it's all based on how you receive the information and how you let it impact your life. Right?
It is, yeah.
It's deep.
It's real deep. Just throw that lifeboat up, life jacket up there.
Let's throw it up there. Let me ask you about, because I know that you've done things with coaches, you've bought programs before, you've done a lot of things to improve yourself as a person, as a business owner. What do you think has been the most helpful thing for you?
The most helpful
as far as growth?
Growth was just letting go of the need for a security blanket.
Ooh, okay.
Once you have a base of skill set up, then you're unemployable. And it took me a couple more rounds after you fired me, Drew, to figure out that I needed to just go and do my own thing, whatever that thing was going to be. Mm-hmm. And once I went through those couple more rounds, seeing the same pattern, hey man, you get into a place, you rock it, you get a little antsy, you start bucking up, showing your chest, trying to be powerful, doing things like that, and then you end up having to quit or get fired and move on. There's no way to do a career. Mm-hmm. You're burning more bridges than you're mending or building. So in my experience, it was trusting in your skill set and going off on your own and understanding that that's where you have to build up from.
I love that. I love that. So what you're saying is the most helpful thing for your growth was me.
It was Drew.
I love that.
And that's how we'll end today.
End of episode. No, but I think that's massive though, right? Like, how do you think?
If you have a 9-to-5 and you are making good money and you're frustrated with your lack of leisure time or your inability to pursue hobbies or different things like that, then there is another life to be lived, but you're not going to get that time freedom for a long time.
Let's talk about that.
Time freedom it's interesting how you measure it, because you've run different businesses. I mean, how much free time is there when there's the next job?
I mean, I can only speak for me personally, but there's none.
Right.
There's none. I think I'm a different kind of crazy though, and I enjoy what I do very, very deeply, and I find a lot of meaning and purpose in what I do. So in a lot of ways, even when I am grinding it out 20 hours a day, which by the way, beginning of this year, like I was back into grind and hustle mode, and most people don't even understand or believe me at all when I say, yo, I'm working 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. Ask my wife. She ain't going to lie to you. She'll tell you because she probably wanted to kill me. But I was back in grind mode. And yeah, it's even doing that though, which sounds crazy, right? Like only sleeping a couple hours a day. Literally, I was basically taking like 1 hour nap midday and then sleeping like 3 hours a night and right back to it,
With young children.
With young children, yeah. And yeah, with a 1-year-old at home and everything. But, you know, we were in the middle of moving out of our old office, moving into this office, we were already 6 months behind. I was massively over budget on a bunch of other projects at the same time. Now my sales team, everybody was working remote, and I built an in-person, in-office company, right? And come end of December, we were out of our old office. We weren't in here yet. Everybody's working remote. I got all this other crap going on. Everything has to be done all at the same time. Cash is in a terrible spot. So like I said, over budget on everything massively. And a lot of those issues probably could have been minimized, not eliminated, but minimized had I put more time into some of the things earlier on. So it kind of just came to a head, and it's like, yo, the only answer right now is to jump into everything and take care of everything all at the same time and get stuff done. But even through that, where I was going with that rant was, it doesn't even feel like work to me. Like, it's not.
So if you like what you do, then the busy schedule kind of just takes care of itself. Or if you're intrinsically driven, then the back-to-back schedule of jumping to the next job, the next thing's got to get done. That's the entrepreneurial lifestyle.
It is.
But that person that's sitting there that has their regular job and they're seeing real estate as a vehicle for them to go into as a new and exciting career
freedom.
Or create freedom. My message to them is this. It's going to take a while to go get the time freedom. So use the benefits of having your salary and leverage those opportunities first, funding wise. I mean, there's no better rates that you're going to get or better programs than when you're employed, have the bank, if you're bankable. So if you're bankable and you have the tax returns and the pay stubs and all that stuff that you wouldn't otherwise need to provide for the loans that I do, then go and get your FHA first-time home buyer.
Beautiful.
Buy a big house, have your buddies live there or have your girlfriends live there, and that is now your investment property. Then go, and now you could be at a different stage of your life, but now you have this big house that's a rental property. You can kick all those people out, and now you can live there with your spouse and try and raise a family in there. Or now you have a highly profitable rental property because while during the time that you owned it, you paid down principal and your buddies were paying everything over top. You might have even been making money each month based off of the mortgage. And that's at a 6, 7, 8% interest rate.
Right. And that's not a conventional thought.
No.
But it can work and it can make sense. So thinking outside the box can serve people really well.
Exactly.
So they should hit you up and start out the conversation by saying, what's your rate?
There we go. What's your rate?
So I got to have you tell a story real quick because in the last couple minutes, I forget what it was you said, but the way you shook your head reminded me. And we got to talk about the story in Denver at the bar.
At the bar.
Let's go.
All right, so
You're getting canceled on this one. Let's go.
100% canceled. So we're in Denver, and we're at the Freedom Soft little convention pitch, whatever it was, to try and be better at our CRM.
Yep.
And the day's done. We want to go blow off some steam, want to go get some beers. We're looking around, and I think it was across the street from our hotel or somewhere near where we were staying, and we saw the outside of the building, and we were just like, that is a strip club.
It should have been a strip club. It would have been a lot cooler if it was a strip club.
It would have been a lot cooler if it was. We're not telling this story if it was, but been a lot cooler. So we go in there. It's a weekday.
Yeah.
It might have been Wednesday or Thursday, something like that.
Yep.
So moderately packed for a weekday. We got some karaoke going. You and I are bullshitting at the bar. We're just drinking. And, one of these women comes up and bumps me a little bit. And
when you say women like that, what do you mean? Why do you say it like that?
The eye roll is included because people can present themselves in certain ways, and I'm trying to honor people's way that they're presenting themselves, okay? All right. So she bumps into me and she goes, and this was on accident. And she goes, "Oh, sorry. I thought you were one of my friends, but I'm a lesbian. And I think you're a lesbian too." And I was like, "What? What are you talking about?" Okay, just running into somebody. We're having a conversation, whatever, you make it. And then I was like, "Well, what do you mean I'm a lesbian?" She goes, "You like pussy, don't you?" "You're a lesbian." Like, okay, well, yes, we're all lesbians
the most
then.
random experience of all time and hilarious.
I was not to be topped by prior to that going to the cigar lounge where we're sitting in computer chairs watching someone fish on their GoPro.
Watching fishing, yeah, with the owner of the cigar bar or whatever it was. Yep. It was an interesting trip. Right?
That was great.
That was an interesting trip. Nothing better than you being a lesbian, though.
Yeah, well, we're all lesbians.
Forever. Yeah, well, we are. We are, in fact, all lesbians by that definition. I love it. Anything else you want to share with the audience today?
For the hundreds of thousands of people that are going to watch and listen to this
Millions.
podcast. And millions! Best way to contact me is through my personal Facebook page, Gary Brown.
Instagram?
Instagram's not good. Oh, I could take DMs there, but I don't post on Instagram. I am on TikTok, Hard Money Gary. Support is absolutely needed over there. I'm in the 200 view threshold and will remain
Post
there.
some fire over there.
There's at least some educational content on there.
Yep.
If not a couple of impressions.
I love that. Love that. Making it happen.
Yeah.
Gary, thanks for talking today. And thanks for joining. And go find Gary on social. Find him on TikTok. And we will see you on the next episode.